The markets have lost trillions of dollars.
The central difference between today's world economy and the world economy in the 1930s is that we're much more trade dependent than we used to be. And so that's why I think there is a fair amount of panic about the consequences of all this and the risk of a global recession.
Welcome back. Donald Trump's tariffs are fueling global unrest. Mass protests erupt worldwide. Thousands call on the president to keep his hands off democracy. America's largest bank forecasts a 60% chance of a global recession, and all of it started with a single decision. Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire livelihood gone. Not from fire, not from war, not from a deadly virus, but from a simple policy change. A new tariff, a number, a law, no sirens, no warning, just silence. Orders vanish, warehouses freeze, assembly lines stop mid-process, the hum of machines replaced by eerie stillness. The factory floor, once buzzing with life, now echoes like a graveyard. This is exactly what happened across the globe in early 2025 when the United States slammed its trading partners with a brutal series of sweeping tariffs, some reaching as high as 35%. Entire supply chains ground to a halt. Industries held their breath. While Washington built walls, Ottawa opened doors. Amidst the chaos, something unexpected unfolded. 7 nations, economic powerhouses, resource giants, and clean tech innovators didn't wait for Washington to change course. They turned elsewhere. They turned to Canada. It began in Germany, in the automotive hubs of Munich and Wolfsburg. Engineers and managers woke up to a crushing 25% tariff on all vehicles and auto parts entering the United States. Years of carefully balanced transatlantic logistics unraveled in mere hours. At Summer GmbH, 2,500 jobs hung in the balance. Orders from Detroit disappeared overnight. Forklifts stood still. Berlin refused to watch its manufacturing backbone collapse. By mid-February, Germany struck a deal with Canada, a supplemental trade protocol worth billions. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Chancellor Olaf Scholz stood side by side as they secured duty-free quotas for German auto parts flowing into Canada. Transmission casings once bound for Michigan were quickly rerouted to Ontario. Within 3 weeks, 70% of Germany's inventory found new homes north of the border. In Oshawa, GM Canada fired up additional lines. 350 workers were called back. Meanwhile, across the border in Michigan, headlines spoke of massive layoffs. Thousands of American workers faced unemployment as production ground to a halt. Hamilton's warehouses in Canada, meanwhile, added 200 logistics jobs just to handle the influx. German ERP systems were recoded. Shipping labels were rewritten. What started as disaster became reinvention. By March, Intercon, a Franco-German wind turbine giant, announced a $1.1 billion deal to supply Canada's booming hydroelectric sector. Quebec's assembly yards filled with German components. Bavarian technicians arrived to oversee the installations. New contracts, new routes, new alliances. The trade map of North America was being redrawn. Farther north, Denmark faced its own reckoning. In Esbjerg, massive turbine blades, some longer than jetliners, sat idle. A sudden 30% US tariff had canceled their American contracts overnight. Projects were frozen, crews prepared for layoffs, but Denmark too pivoted. By April 1st, Denmark had signed a $1.5 billion green technology pact with Canada. Turbine blades meant for Arizona were now rerouted to Nova Scotia. Solar panels destined for Florida rerouted to Saskatchewan. In that same week, 150 Danish engineers boarded flights to Halifax and Regina. Across Nova Scotia, 200 Canadian workers were trained to install and maintain the new equipment. In Saskatchewan, logistics centers doubled shifts. Danish factories retooled their machines to meet Canadian grid specifications. In just a month, Danish wind exports to Canada surged 65%. 900 Danish jobs saved. Over 1,100 new Canadian jobs created. South Korea, too, stood at the brink. Inside its sprawling battery gigafactories, silence was deafening. A 20% US tariff had severed their ties to California. Pallets of lithium-ion modules sat still, but Seoul didn't hesitate. On March 20th, LG Chem and Samsung SDI inked a $1.7 billion deal with Canada's Northvolt. 500,000 battery modules were assigned to new destinations: Windsor, London, and Hamilton. Packing crews worked double shifts. Labels once marked Los Angeles now read Ontario. By May, 2 Canadian facilities had each hired 350 technicians trained in the precision assembly of Korean battery packs. South Korea preserved 3,000 domestic jobs. Ulsan's factories kept their lights on. The global electric vehicle race, once tied to US markets, had found a new partner in Canada. In Lyon, France, the mood turned tense. Their hydrogen electrolyzer factories, machines that transform water into clean energy, suddenly sat quiet. A devastating 30% US tariff had wiped out hundreds of millions in contracts, but France refused paralysis. By April 3rd, France secured a $1.2 billion hydrogen infrastructure pact with Canada. Quebec and Ontario would receive $800 million worth of French electrolyzers. Simultaneously, a Parisian turbine manufacturer pledged $400 million worth of wind systems to a Nova Scotia project. Within weeks, 250 French engineers arrived in Montreal and Toronto. Factory acceptance tests commenced with Canadian partners. At the University of Montreal, 180 Canadian workers enrolled in crash training courses to master French energy assembly protocols. The partnership preserved 1,000 French jobs, while creating 850 new positions in Canada. Half a world away in Australia, the iron ore trains of the Pilbara screeched to a halt. A shocking 30% US tariff on raw minerals stunned Australia's mining sector. Exports stalled. Mines fell silent. But Australia had prepared. By April 20th, the Northern Stars Initiative was born, a $3.5 billion minerals pact with Canada. Iron ore shipments, once bound for California, now steamed toward Vancouver and Thunder Bay. Canadian ports added 400 workers. Ontario's steel mills upgraded their blast furnaces to handle Australian ore, boosting output by 18%. Australia's lithium sector followed swiftly. A new joint venture with a Canadian electric bus manufacturer rerouted lithium carbonate to Welland, Ontario. Over 2,100 Australian mining jobs were saved. Smaller contractors took hits, but the backbone survived. Even base commodities were finding new homes. Mexico faced one of the harshest shocks. A crushing 35% US tariff on auto components severed vital supply chains overnight. Factories from Ciudad Juarez to Monterrey braced for collapse. But within weeks, Mexico and Canada unveiled the Triple North Corridor Alliance, an $8.2 billion pact that rerouted suspension systems, electronic controls, and wiring harnesses straight into Ontario's automotive hubs. Brampton's logistics centers swelled. Windsor's factories ran night shifts. Mexican suppliers who once feared collapse suddenly found salvation. Packing centers in Baja California stayed open by shifting their goods north. By May, bilateral investment between Mexico and Canada exceeded $20 billion. The attempt to isolate Mexico had, in practice, only deepened its partnership with Canada, and then, finally, came Brazil. On March 1st, ranchers in Mato Grosso received the crushing news. A 25% tariff had eliminated their access to the US market. Beef, soy, and ethanol, worth billions, had nowhere to go. Fear spread like wildfire. Some predicted 30% revenue collapses. Others braced for mass layoffs. But Brazil struck back. On March 28th, Brazil and Canada signed a $2 billion trade deal. Brazilian beef rerouted to Alberta and Manitoba. Soybeans shipped to Winnipeg and Saskatoon. Ethanol flowed into Quebec. Ranchers reorganized. Slaughterhouses in Toronto ramped up. 5,000 ranching jobs were saved. Soy producers secured fresh credit lines. Farms expanded operations. Entire agricultural networks shifted north. And while the 7 nations adapted and thrived, America's industries withered. Michigan's auto towns, once bustling, faced waves of layoffs. U.S. wind farms froze construction. California's EV projects slowed. U.S. steel mills idled. Farmers struggled to find new buyers. A wave of uncertainty swept across America's manufacturing heartland. But for Canada, opportunity blossomed. By June 2025, Canada had signed over $20 billion in new trade deals, transformed its ports, energized its manufacturing base, and positioned itself as a new global hub for clean tech, automotive innovation, and resource processing. The lesson was clear. When the US weaponized tariffs, the world didn't stop, it simply pivoted.